Paradox Q4 2025, a clean slate. Paradox delivered a soft earnings report which was very negatively received by the market. The stock price fell almost 15% from around 150 to 125 SEK per share. The stock reaction was harsh and a bit surprising in my opinion. The negatives from the report should mostly be expected. In Q4, revenues grew 23% year over year, and cash flows grew around 30%. In addition, the quarter was very negatively affected by currencies. Roughly 1/3 of revenues are in dollars, and 1/3 are in euros. The dollar has appreciated around 10% year over year compared to the Swedish krona. I believe currencies has had a negative effect of roughly 5% on the top line. If that is correct, underlying growth could be closer to 30% year over year. As I said in my initial podcast about Paradox, I expected a lumpy stock price going forward, mainly due to the write-down of Bloodlines and the importance of Europa Universalis 5. Paradox took a major write-down of around 700 million in Q4. Also, Europa Universalis 5 has had a soft start, but with continued work this could still become a very successful game. I believe the soft early numbers from EU5, together with the major currency effects, explain most of the poor stock reaction. The Bloodlines write-down was no news and should not explain the move in the stock. Now we see the usual pattern. Sell side adjust their price targets to fit the new lower stock price. For a long-term investor, this is actually welcome. Frankly, I find the current setup to be one of the most interesting for Paradox in many years. Paradox has long communicated a desire to return to its core. With growth and success came some sloppiness and capital misallocation, and that has clearly been reflected in the stock price. Previously, Paradox was a market darling with very high valuation multiples. Today, the stock looks priced on fundamentals rather than being a quality compounder. This is great for potential investors. The company has now cleaned up its balance sheet. Write-downs should be minimal going forward. Focus is returning to core games, loyal player bases, long-lasting titles, and recurring revenues. The business model delivers stable cash flows. Current free cash flow, meaning cash from operations minus game development costs, is around 600 million SEK. This is compared to the enterprise value of around 12.5 billion. Paradox now pays a dividend of 5 SEK per share, corresponding to a yield of roughly 4%. The company is not priced for much growth going forward. I expect continued double-digit revenue growth, while OPEX and CAPEX remain relatively stable. Margins should improve and cash flows should continue to grow in the high teens. At roughly a 5% free cash flow yield, a 4% dividend yield, and continued free cash flow growth, shareholders are set up for very attractive forward returns. Many investors have given up on the stock after years of poor performance. This is exactly the moment when interest should be at the highest. But of course, price drives sentiment. I believe cash flow growth and dividends alone can deliver solid returns from here. And this is a former market darling. With a return to growth and a renewed focus on the core strategy, I also expect multiple expansion over time. I haven't been this positive about Paradox long-term prospects in many years. At a stock price below 130 SEK, I believe this is a very attractive place to open a position. Looking ahead, we should see less investment in third-party projects, lower capex, and stronger cash flows. Existing games are relatively cheap to develop. This is a clean slate with a low share price, a very strong setup. Going into 2026, there's not a lot in the pipeline in terms of new games. Revenues will be mostly driven by DLCs. There is no single massive driver for the stock price, but there will be several contributors to revenue and free cash flow. So the question is simple. Do you invest in Paradox for a one-time hit from a big release, or do you own it for the long term, believing in the core games and the strategy? If you want a big game hit, like a GTA 6 or a Witcher 4, then Paradox is not for you. But if you want a strong and growing free cash flow, being delivered back to shareholders, then Paradox may be a suitable investment. Buying Paradox below 130 SEK looks like a very good entry point, and stock market interest should be at the highest when the stock prices are at the lowest. This is not financial advice. Thanks for listening.